All right, gentlemen. The first thing on the agenda tonight is the Woodford subdivision regs amendment related to Article 5 or 6. Excuse me.
Yep. Okay, I'll go through that pretty quick. We've got a couple of items on the agenda before we get to the amendments to chapters 2 and 7. Your agenda's right there. There you go. And okay. And the first one's an amendment to the subregs. So you should have first thing we're going to talk about is this right here that's in your handout, this handout right there, top. We're going to walk right down through this packet. So just real quick, the preliminary plat that you see is the Legend subdivision. The section that's highlighted in yellow is what we call the undeveloped, or some might say section 5 of the Legends. If you guys saw in the paper, the Legends developer and the city had a discussion about this stub street requirement at the back of the Legends, and the developers indicated to the city that they are not going to make the connection in the very back of the Legends, nor are they going to continue and finish out the rest of the subdivision. So after that dominoed at the city passed a resolution that's attached to this document and issued a moratorium on all subdivisions where there's critical substreet connections that need to be made, and directed us to do something in the subregs to assure going forward substreet connections are made timely and earlier in the development than later. So then the next thing you have laying in front of you is what I put together that would be an amendment to the subregs that does some housekeeping all the way through the document. But really what it does for the first time is it puts together a stub street policy, and that is starts on page 6-8. It's in red text, and it basically just says you have to stub into adjacent tracts when they're undeveloped in the urban service boundary. It lays out how we do those stubs, how we do temporary turnarounds for stub streets, and then item 2, basically, if this passes at the Planning Commission next week, would basically, effective September 11th, require developers to build or bond their stub street connections in the first phase of their developments, or for the folks that are already out there building in their next phase of their development. So then the idea would be we would not run into a situation like this where a developer gets to a point where they just stop, there's no bond money being held with any of the governments, and then they choose not to make a stub street connection, and we're at that point. So this subdivision amendment kind of jumped to the top, because if you guys are comfortable with moving this amendment to the Planning Commission next week, and if it was ratified, then the city could roll back the moratorium, because now we would have a tool in the subregs to assure that all future stub streets are bonded or get built in a timely fashion. I don't have much more to add to that. Mary Beth's looked at it. She's got about 3 words she wants changed on the very front page. One word street needs to go to subdivision. The word residential needs to be added in 2 places, and I'll get those fixes before you guys get to the Planning Commission next week. But I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have about this amendment. Your all's role as advisory committee is to look at any amendments to the subregs or zoning ordinance and green light them so they can go to the floor of the Planning Commission for consideration.
If you make them bond any subdivision from here on out, and it's laid out a front to back development plan, so they start at the front, go to the back, your connector is in the back of the subdivision. What happens if 2008, 2009 hits again, they get through the front 2 phases, then you have a connectivity street that's supposed to be put in? What's your bond going to allow? Just the back portion of that phase?
The bond would be for the whole road network. So a developer will choose in the front end to either bond the entire subdivision, but if you wanted to do a section, for example, if you were doing section 1, then you would also then bond that part right there.
So what about from phase 2? So all of this
that whole street network would have to be bonded.
Okay. I didn't see that specific in here, was it?
Yeah, it's in here, and it's in item 2 of the stub street policy that we just talked about.
6-9.
Yeah. So it says, right here, it says effective September 11, 25, street connections to existing substreets and adjacent development are required to be constructed and bonded in the first phase of any planned subdivision street construction. All substreet connections shall be shown during the development plan preliminary plat, be included in the developer's first phase of construction. All substreets shall be bonded as outlined in the developer bonding requirements in Article 3. And then the folks that are already working under, then there's a different provision for the folks they just have to do it in their next initial phase. So that pretty much says they're going to have to bond any stub street connections. Now, there could be subdivisions where there's not a stub street connection. The preliminary plat might be different. For example, the subdivision we approved on McCracken Pike has no stub streets on any side. It just says in
So
the
you
front.
think that's going to read, you think that reads clear enough?
So if someone turns in construction plans and we know there's a stub street on the ground, they're going to have to show in their construction plans that leg of the street and bond that whole component.
The entirety of that street that connects to that
Including the
stub,
stub street all the way to the other
the
stub.
adjacent subdivision
Yeah.
or the adjacent street or whatever?
Yeah.
And you think that reads clear enough in there that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you guys need to make, if you are, but I mean, it says it has to be done in the first phase and has to be shown on the plat.
Okay.
Now, this fix doesn't really address that project there because this is a situation where there is no bond. The developer's stopping. He's put farm gates at the end of the road and there's 2 street connections that nobody's holding any money on. This is in the future. That situation could never occur. We
Yeah.
don't really have a solution for that,
For this
For that.
specific development?
not at this time.
Yeah.
So what do you do if another developer comes in, takes over these back lots?
Well, if someone ever gets ready to build and turns
So they
in their
got to finish,
plans,
they
they're
got to
gonna-
finish the streets.
They're going to have to post a
water.
bond. In our new bonding process, they'd have to post 100% or 20% bond. So if someone goes to finish it, then it's easy because we're going to have a bond.
Right.
But right now, the developer's there saying, I'm
So
done.
now it's just gated off, it's left as it is,
And then
dead end streets.
And they've told the city they're not going to make the connection. We're working through other avenues on that through the city's legal counsel that we're going to get ours involved in. But right now, this is for the future, and the city's moratorium was on all subdivisions to make sure this doesn't occur anywhere else. So the moratorium was a citywide moratorium on any subdivision over 4 lots. It directed us to put something in the regs that we never end up with a situation like this. So that's what we've done. So we just wanted to run it by you guys today, make sure you're comfortable with this going to a public hearing next week at the Planning Commission. Everyone good with that? We technically need a motion for you guys to allow this to go to the floor of the Planning Commission.
Okay, you need a motion? What you're saying is for next week?
Yeah, so we can put, it's already in your packet tentatively, but we can't, don't want to run it to the Planning Commission, so you guys are okay with it.
I make a motion that we send this to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
Oh, second.
Okay. Any questions or any discussion? Everybody say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody oppose it? All right, move on to the next one.
All right.
That's short time. All right. Excuse me?
I was just making sure that Kim's aware that I'm not on this committee, I'm not voting on any of it.
Help out.
You forward the committee.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right, the next one's a text amendment for Articles 7 and 8, or, zone change ordinance,
That's 8 and 10.
8 and 10, excuse me, on here.
8 and 10. Yep. So let's go through that real quick. These 2 articles are laying literally in front of you in your packet. These relate to the flood properties that we have here in the community. I think you guys have heard me mention this. We've got some situations that we really need to clean up. We have a lot of non-conforming properties in our county. And when we had the recent floods in February and April, we got a lot of people that can't build back their properties partially due to FEMA issues, substantial damage issues, but some of it's just because they're non-conforming lots on small lots down on the river. So what we'd be doing here in Article 8 is redoing our non-conforming chapter. And what we'd be doing is creating for what we call non-conforming structures, what we call voluntary demolition versus involuntary demolition. You've heard me mention that some people call this act of God provision or no harm, no foul provision. What this does is, in an involuntary situation, wind, fire, tornado, flood, that somebody could build back on the same footprint as long as they get a permit in hand within 6 months. That lets them build back on the property, even if it's a non-conforming lot. If they voluntarily destroy the property, they choose to tear it down, then they have to come into compliance with the zoning ordinance if it's destroyed more than 55%. So this just cleans up our non-conforming chapter, which is a pretty small chapter. It's just 3 pages long. But we wanted to get something like this to you guys, to the Planning Commission, because we got a lot of properties damaged. And even if they work through their FEMA standards, the county has waived some of the zoning provisions. But because we have thousands of non-conforming lots, when there's a fire or a tornado or something, we just think it's the fairest thing to do is that people could build back as long as they can meet the building code, work through their FEMA issue if it's a flood. But again, splitting this into voluntary and involuntary, what we call demolitions for non-conforming structures, is pretty typical in a lot of communities, but our ordinance was very strict in this area. Well, this is something we'd want to take to the Planning Commission because our exemption for folks in the flood zones getting ready to time out in the end of October. The second part of that is Article 10, which is the flood ordinance. And Mary Beth has asked for 2 revisions in this related to FEMA definitions. And they're on page 10-12 or 13. 10-13. It changes the definition of what the substantial improvement is to match up with FEMA's definition. She's also making a change, wants a change as our floodplain corner on 10-14 to make sure that our current FEMA flood map is properly referenced. We had the 2011 map. There's actually a December 21-17 map. The rest of what we did is this chapter was really kind of not in the same format as the zoning ordinance. So I went through and just formatted the entire chapter. And you'll see 90% of the other changes are changing the word ordinance to article and making cross references to the right numbering system. So there's really not any substantial changes in here. The main changes are what you see on pages 10-13 and 10-14. And again, after the flood that we currently had, we realized these sections need to be fixed, and we'd like to get those corrected. So the reason why we broke these up for the Planning Commission is because these chapters that we're getting ready to talk about, 2 and 7, might take a while, but we'd like to get this as a public hearing, chapters 8 and 10, let you guys look at these separate, and if by chance we can move these through, then we get these to the local governments to be ratified as quick as we could. I'll be glad to answer any questions related to chapters 8 or 10. I think I've mentioned to y'all before, we got a lot of conservation zone properties. Almost 75% of those are non-conforming. They were created as 1s and 1/2s and 5-acre tracts. And when you're a non-conforming structure and you're a non-conforming lot, and then there's a situation like a fire or tornado or something, it's unfortunate. There's almost no way to come into compliance with the zoning ordinance. So giving people the ability to build back on the same footprint if they get a timely permit, we think is a fair thing to do.
So what you're saying, they can go back in on where they're already existing?
Yeah.
Even if it's in the floodplain?
No, they still got to deal with FEMA.
Okay.
And there's some properties are going to have to be buyouts or changed.
Right.
But even if FEMA says you can raise it, because the setbacks are the conservation zone, for example, the setbacks are 80-foot front, 50-foot rear. Some of the lots aren't even that big.
That's what I say.
So even if you can get through your FEMA stuff, the zoning ordinance is what's going to hang you out because you're a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot. So by allowing someone that if there's one of these kind of act of God situations, that they can build back, it really exempts them from the setback requirement of the zoning ordinance. If they can get through their FEMA on the flood situation.
Right.
Other, if you have a fire or something else happens, you just can build back as long as you can meet the building code. You still got to meet the building code.
Is the definition of destroyed, you can't live in it? Is that the,
Yeah, it can't be habitable.
can't be habitable?
Yeah, if something's more than 55 destroyed now. Right now, if it's destroyed over a certain percentage, you have to get a building permit to build it back. And typically what happens is you run right into setbacks or lot coverage or the lot size. There's some hang up. And you could go to the Board of Adjustments maybe as a remedy.
Yeah.
But again, if it wasn't anything you caused, the idea is that you should be able to build back if you get a timely permit. Any other situation, you have to comply with the rules 100%.
I'm trying to think of a situation where the word destroyed could be twisted to
Right,
not suit
yeah.
the purpose of this. I didn't know if you had something in mind for that.
That's what I was thinking. I was just, what's the definition of destroyed? And
Right.
is it clear enough in this that what destroyed is?
I'll keep it circled for next week.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how it's really defined. It's really the first sentence where it says, no nonconformity structure may be enlarged, moved, structurally altered in a way that increases its nonconformity. But any structure or portion thereof may be altered to decrease its nonconformity. Voluntary demonstration of nonconforming, which is those types, nullifies its nonconforming rights. Should a destroyed, moved, or removed to an extent of 55%. So destroyed could be in a voluntary situation as you choosing to do a remodel. You're
Yeah.
changing it.
Right, yeah.
And that does happen. Someone comes in and says they're gonna gut a house or remodel something, and it's over a certain percentage, and you have to comply with all the rules. But
Yeah.
in like I said, in what we call an involuntary situation, we're letting them kind of exempt them from that zoning compliance aspect.
But it would have to be in the same footprint. It can't,
Exactly.
you can't make a bigger house
That's right.
or whatever
Yeah,
without.
It could go on the
yeah.
same foundation, assuming they can work through their FEMA aspect
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
flood situation.
So do we need a motion to tear?
If you guys are comfortable with letting this go to the floor of the planning commission, then yes, we need a motion on that.
Okay,
Those two chapters, 8 and 10, we do those as a package deal at the planning commission.
okay. Got it right here. Well, is there a motion made to take this to the planning commission next meeting?
I'll make a motion for Articles 8 and 10 to go to planning commission.
Second motion.
Any discussion? If not, goes to the next meeting.
Okay. Now we're to the big one. Yeah,
What time you gotta leave? 6? Oh, you gotta.
20
I
after.
gotta get out here before then. So, this next article, I apologize to you all. That's one I thought we was mainly dealing with tonight. I have other conflict. He's got other conflicts, so we'll go as far as we can. We can carry it on, or y'all can carry on amongst yourselves if you wish, or we can wait and maybe do it next Thursday. pick
next
a time,
Thursday, yeah.
and come in, work on this article.
What's your time?
He's got to leave here at 5:30.
Grandparents' school tonight.
Can't miss that. Yeah.
And you guys can keep going if you guys want to go.
I was ordered to be there, so. So, what's your all's decision? It's open to discussion here. It's quite a bit to go through, I think. I understand, according to Steve, I think what we started with, discussing last week, or, excuse me, the last meeting, was from 6 down. Looks like here they want to start from 1 all the way through.
Well, let me first mention one thing quickly. There's another thing in your packet real fast. I just want to point these out. Yes, the plan is to get into the in-family conveyance verbiage right now, is what we need to do. But as I sent to you all, there's several city directives we've had over the last 2 years that affect Article 7. And we backburnered several of those where we worked on what we call county side amendments. A year ago, this committee looked at most of the changes that are in Article 2, a lot of the changes that are in 7 that we call city side, county side, and then we chose to just break out the county stuff separate. And we sent that to the Planning Commission in November, December last year. Then we sent it to the county And now, again, a year later, we're back starting over on the in-family, or at least that discussion. But I want to point out, the first thing laying in your packet, there's been a new state law that's passed, House Bill 160. It goes in effect in January related to manufactured homes, what we call a non-discriminatory type language. You no longer can discriminate against manufactured homes. This bill specifically says that manufactured homes have to be authorized in any zone where a normal stick-built home can be constructed. That goes into the law come January, and it needs to go into our ordinance pretty soon here. So, wanted to point that out. The city was kind of on the cusp of this, because a year ago they were talking about allowing manufactured homes as a product type in several zones, and that got ratified into our state law with an effective date of January 1, 26. So we need to get this rolling. The next page is the directive we got from the fiscal court on what they wanted to see the in-family verbiage be, which we sent, that we put in the text that you guys then have been looking at for several months. But I do want to point out there are several directives the city's made from their housing task force, from the prior mayor, related to the R districts, the multifamily districts, the industrial districts, the commercial zones, and there was a downtown business group that I served on for a couple years that kind of redid the whole downtown zone, how it should function to build flexibility for the downtown zones. Unfortunately, all of that's in Chapter 7. So when a year ago, when we looked at a lot of this, including some of the city side stuff, we decided to stop and let's just break out the county stuff, and we'll come back to the city. So now I think it's probably a better idea that we just work through this whole chapter. May not get done in one meeting, might not get done in 2 meetings. It's 89 pages long. But it would address all the directives we've had from the city as well as the county side stuff we've been looking at. Chapter 2 that goes with it are definitions. Every single one of these definitions were looked at a year ago by this committee, and then we just backburnered them and just pulled out just the county ones. So with that, if you get into Chapter 7, the first thing that we'd be into is the A1 zone, which again, you guys have looked at a lot of these housekeeping issues related to lot sizes and how we would make sure we wouldn't have odd-shaped lots, accessory dwellings, tenant houses, and then you run right into page 7-9 where it talks about the in-family conveyance lots that we have been looking at now for several months. So how you guys want to attack chapters 2 and 7? We'll just take notes from here, and you guys, we'll just walk through them however you guys want to. But I think 2, we could wait to the end. It's definitions that all relate to several of these changes. And again, most of the definitions are either housekeeping or they match state laws that our definitions didn't match. Like, for example, manufactured homes, and the word development plan, and just a lot of our definitions are in state laws, and we just are just housekeeping what a compost facility is, for example. So we can look at these, but we did review these a year ago, and they haven't changed hardly at all. So with that, we're into Chapter 7, and we're right at wherever you guys want to start on Chapter 7. And if you it's the in-family stuff, then it's page 7-9.
To address Randall's departure, does this committee have a vice chair that could...
I don't think we formally have vice chairs of our committee.
Might it make sense to have a nomination for a temporary vice chair, at least to take over if the committee wants to continue to discuss after 5:30?
Sure. I'm out if you guys...
Any volunteers?
Well,
I'll do it. I can stay on as long as we need
so
to.
I know, that's what I was going to say. I know you're not. With,
What did you say?
oh,
She volunteered.
Yeah, I can do it. I can stay on.
Does the vice chair need to be one of the committee members?
Yes.
She's not.
Yeah. So the 4 committee members are you 4 right here.
Yeah.
with Randall,
That's right.
with you leaving,
Uh-huh.
do you think can we reconvene next week?
Yes, we
Prior
can.
to?
Yeah.
We're not getting through 7 in one
We would.
day.
No,
I was
there's
going to say
no way.
this thing. He's got so much to
But can we
discuss.
reconvene prior to the 11th of next week?
Yep.
Is that possible?
It'd have to be the 11th.
Well, and,
It'd
okay.
have to be before the planning committee. That'd be
Right.
about the only window I think
That'd
we
be
would
next
have.
Thursday. Am I correct?
And, yeah, spend some time in here then?
So the items on the planning commission's agenda as a tabled item, 2 and 7,
Right.
with the hope that we could get back into this. But again, I think the idea is to work through several of these things. And again, a lot of this stuff's already been looked at. But the part that has to be, in a sense, recreated is this 1 through 8 section. Is what I think is what the planning commission, you all said, is take this back to them. And
Right.
you guys are either keeping it the same, rewording it, you know, at this point, I'm not sure what we're doing with this section.
What were the 3 points? I can't recall off the top of my head, and I don't have my notes, but Kim recorded them in the minutes. The 3 things that we wanted to talk about specifically in the in-family conveyance section.
It was the residency,
Which is number 1,
the link to hold the property.
which is number 6.
Yeah. And,
Was it related to hardship? Was that the other one?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
hardship situation.
Hardship situation.
Under the 10-year rule. Yeah.
I think those are the 3 topics we talked about. Excuse me.
So Steve, the definitions have not changed since the advisory committee went through that some time ago, correct?
No, they're exactly the same. The ones that are highlighted.
Okay, well, can't we go ahead and move that forward and be done with that?
Well, we could. They were packaged together because some of them tie into the changes in 7, like especially with the manufactured homes. But no, I think we could. We could move 2 forward as a standalone article also, if you all chose to. If 7 never got worked out, some things might be out of sequence a little bit, some of the terms.
Well, I mean, I think 7 is something we need to get worked out. If we're not going to do it tonight, I think we certainly need to get together before the next meeting.
Yeah, 2 is pretty straightforward. The things highlighted in yellow are you guys had a subsection of this that's been part of your hearing the last few months.
Isn't that the key one, though, that we've been working with, that they keep sending back?
Yeah, so we sent the county just the A1, A2, CO, RR, and A4 zone, just
Correct.
county side.
Correct.
And then we just looked at a handful of definitions that are related to those.
Okay.
These definitions are broader, and they relate to several other changes that are deeper into 7, the manufactured home verbiage that will now be scattered through the whole chapter. Yeah, that wouldn't bother if you want to do 2 as a standalone, but right now it's tabled as 2 and 7. But yeah, 7's going to take a little while. I can tell you there's no other changes. We haven't made any changes to Chapter 7, not a single one.
I didn't think we had.
From what you looked at a year ago, nor the county side sections, we haven't changed anything. It's exactly the same. So it sounds like we're going to keep going then, or is that what you are doing if Randall has to leave, or you guys wanting to stick around and keep going?
Are you good with that, Whitney?
Whitney can't do it. She's not a committee member.
Oh,
Yeah, well, we're
that's
saying
right, that's right.
Someone have to agree to
that's right. Somebody has to agree
temporarily chair the
to
meeting.
chair.
Tim, Doug, or Chris?
And we'll,
What about Chris?
Where's the camera?
Unofficial second.
Sounds like all you have to do is ask to adjourn at some point, because I'm sure we're not going to be able to take any action probably. We're just going to talk through the pages as we go.
Okay, that'll be fine.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll co-chair the meeting for you.
Thank you.
But yeah,
Thank you.
well, all right.
Save grace. and
Thanks,
honor.
Patty. Appreciate it.
just a quick motion to confirm that.
You're welcome, Chris. It's just
I
that
make a
you've heard
motion,
all
I
this
guess.
stuff so many times, I thought you would be great at it.
Mr. Middleton, do you second Mr. Curl's
second,
motion?
yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
For a chair.
Thank you.
Hi.
How the rest of you.
Yeah.
Hey, take care of it. Thank you.
So how do you want to start 7? You guys just want to, like I said, you want to start at the beginning here, or you guys?
So what do we decide to do about Article 2? We moving it forward, or we?
Whatever y'all want to do, or we can just talk about it last and package them together whenever we're ready to get it to the planning commission. It's whatever y'all, it works either way.
I'm just kind of wondering if So this is about definitions, if we need a definition for hardship or, because we were talking about that.
There could be some things that end up spinning off of any changes
Yeah.
you guys make in here.
Right, yeah. So seems to make more sense if we did it last,
Yeah.
in case we needed to add something
And
to
we
it.
can do that. We can work through 7, and then 2 is just something we'll come back at the end, and if there's something we need to fix, we can fix it then.
It's fine.
So, that's fine.
All right.
It's okay, then I'll just start with 7 real quick in the front, just because I want to point out a couple things just to refresh you guys on something.
See ya. Have fun.
Yep, next week.
One of the things we're going to do too is move the conservation zone up towards the front, but when you turn the second page, if you remember, one of the things we're going to do, there's only 50 parcels in the county that are zoned to A2, and we were going to convert the A2 properties to A1. And this conversion chart on 7-2 is the mechanism we would do that. We'd be making 2 changes to this chapter 7 where we're converting some old verbiage to new. The A1 zone would become, or the A2 becomes A1, and then the small community term from A4 would just become SC going forward. Down in the future, if we ever were to convert zones or change things around, this is the type of mechanism or table we would keep in our ordinance if we ever converted zones or merged zones or had to split zones out, for example. We'd do it through a conversion table like that. Then when you get to 7-3, you're right into the ag zone A1. If you remember, we created a right to farm policy that our Ag Advisory Review Board helped us create. That leads off the new A1 chapter with the intent statement was just a sentence and now becomes a purpose and intent and has several bullets there to make sure everyone understands the importance and the intent of the ag
So this
zone.
is one thing I'd like to ask a question about.
Sure,
Since I'm
sure.
here. Sure. And that's an important paragraph.
Sure.
Where does the word premature in subsection D come from?
I would have to go back and ask one of my ag, but I know what we're trying to say, discourage premature
I
urban
would
growth.
just eliminate that word.
Just say discourage urban growth on land.
Ag areas.
Yeah, that's fine.
Premature, well, if you're willing to do it, you don't need my academic argument. do you?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. No, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think the goal is, but you agree with the general intent
Absolutely.
statement? Yeah.
I just don't like the word premature.
Not sure where it
at
came
all.
from, not sure.
There's a 60-year-old history of treating cities as growth is inevitable. And
Sure.
premature is that kind of
Yeah.
analogy that says it's going to happen. And this assumes it's going to happen. And I think this ordinance is meant to not assume it's going to happen.
So what D would say is discourage urban growth on land best suited for agriculture. Yeah,
It doesn't say prohibit, it just says discourage.
yeah, no problem.
See how I sneak that in?
That's why you're
The
here.
explanation of that.
It's a lot easier to fix it at this level than we'll get the floor plan, so I appreciate that, yeah. So that's what's on page 7-3. 7-4, cleaned up some CUPs. One of the things that's being eliminated is a tourist destination verbiage as a principal use as well as a conditional use, because we now have agritourism terms. Some accessory uses were plugged in that sort of just deal with fences and pools and solar panels. Our conditional use master list is on 7-5, and it's important you guys note that, because that's another part of the in-family conveyance standard that was added. The fiscal court took 2 actions. One was to send you guys the list of the preferred in-family conveyance bullets or language. They also took a vote to suggest that we look at making in-family conveyance lots a conditional use permit first. So the way this is formatted right now is you'd actually have to go to the Board of Adjustments and file a conditional use permit to have the authority to file an in-family conveyance plat, and then you'd have to meet the standards that we're getting ready to talk about. So that may be something you guys want to think about too, is if the CUP add-on is too intense, not needed, or fits just right kind of concept. Not sure. It's definitely something different. But the ability to have a CUP as a leadoff means there can be a public hearing. So on any particular in-family conveyance plat, neighbors would be notified, there'd be a Board of Adjustments hearing, and the Board of Adjustments, of course, is looking at more infrastructure, life safety issues, traffic, water. That's what they do. So you'd have to get through the CUP step then to be eligible to file your plat to do your in-family conveyance. which then is a technical review from a plating standpoint, as well as having to meet the criteria then would be outlined that you guys would put forward on the other page. So that's important change on 7-5 that tied in with the county directive. Already got manufactured homes programmed in. That was already in the prior draft. Page 7-7, if you remember, we adjusted where we measure lot width so we get rid of odd-shaped lots. And 7-8, put the farm dwelling tenant house verbiage that currently you have to reference to the manufactured home section would be in the ag section, as well as open up an opportunity to do accessory dwellings in the ag zone in a limited fashion. And then we're right to 7-9, in-family conveyance lots, as it sat at the Planning Commission since May. And there's the numbers 1 through 8. And you can see that lead-in paragraph references that there is a conditional use permit requirement as a precursor before you can file a plat. And I'll just stop right there and let you all jump in wherever you all want to go with this.
Steve, I've got a question about some of the conditional uses that you struck out.
Yeah.
Like commercial golf and driving ranges.
Right.
Were those put in another district?
Yeah, they would go in, I mean, they're commercial. I mean, in theory, you know, I'm not sure going forward if you would want to have a commercial
it takes
driving
a lot of
range.
acreage to have a golf course, that's why I'm just curious of why.
Yeah, but if they're, again, if you look at the intent statement of what the ag district is, I mean, if someone wants to build a golf course, I mean, around a hotel or something, not always way out in the county, sometimes around hotels, or they're close to urban areas, country clubs, if they're government, anything, they're gonna be exempt anyhow. But if someone would come in and build a brand-new golf course in a hotel, I'd imagine that'd be a commercial use, and you'd probably need to zone that. You could make the golf course conditional in the different type zone, but in the ag zone, I'm not sure how many golf courses we have right now in the ag zones. It's just one.
We used to have 2.
Yeah.
One was right up here on.
I think it's just one.
Yeah.
And that was ag zone.
Well, if they were gonna come in and use prime farmland to make a golf course, I think we would probably want to talk about that. But I mean, if you guys think it needs to stay a conditional use permit, I don't think it's probably likely we're gonna see a ton of golf courses be developed. Typically, the ones that are developed are around lodging and hotel and kind of bigger developments, subdivisions, for example. It's pretty common to see someone do a golf course and do estate lots. And in that case, you might make it conditional in a residential zone if you wanted.
And what about animal hospitals and clinics?
Yeah.
Again, a lot of those are.
They're still in there. They're up there in the above list. Number L. We just repurposed the list so that the agritourism went to the top. This was the Ag Advisory Board put this together, so most of the ones are still the same. Number L says animal hospital and veterinary clinic, although you can't build any structures bigger than 10,000.
Right.
So they just put a cap on that. Airports, they would be government, they'd be exempt anyhow. Gravel pits are still in there, borrow pit. Public buildings would be exempt anyhow. Garbage or trash by governments, they'd be exempt anyhow. Research facilities are better defined now, up there in the top list. Number M says they have to be agriculture-related research. It was kind of wide open what kind of research facility could go in there. Sportsman's Farm still in the list. Really, golf courses is the only thing. And again, it leads off commercial golf course. Commercial use probably doesn't belong in the ag zone. And driving ranges, that kind of thing. Driving ranges could have lights, you know, traffic. But if you guys think we might get golf courses, you want to continue them to be conditional use permits, it's whatever.
I'm just thinking maybe 20 years down the road, if someone comes in, what option do they have?
I mean, if it was out, if someone built a hotel out on Edgewood, they could round the hotel out there on B4 property. You know, that's where, I mean, a lot of golf is kind of in decline, as you all know, as far as developing facilities. Most of the golf courses you're seeing are more country clubs that have been around, but most newer golf courses are affiliated with subdivisions. you know, they build them as a package deal with a pretty high-end subdivision product with a adjacent golf course. And they typically would be in a residential zone. So we might want to think about making some provision in the residential zone, but to be honest with you, it's just, you know, it's not a great use of, especially prime farmland. I would hope we wouldn't want to encourage someone to go out and build a 400-acre golf course in prime farmland.
Well, like, I know the one at Frontier Nursing is no longer operating, but what if they want to start it again?
Zone commercial. That's where a commercial golf course,
So
I
they
think,
have
would
to
go.
rezone it.
As opposed to CUP, it's a public hearing either way, but if it's a government, if the city wanted to build a new golf course or the county wanted to, they'd be exempt.
Right.
You know, so they wouldn't have to ask anyhow.
Yeah, I don't think they want to be in the business to do that, but.
Yeah, most people aren't. Golf courses are going away, pretty much. I mean, Henry, I think you have a contentious one over in your county or something, didn't you?
A golf course development that's now not a golf course development, so,
Because
yeah.
they
Oh,
usually
right.
default on that at some point, yeah.
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 You also have two very nice ones over there.
Indeed.
So those are the CUP list. And again, you guys are right back to the 7-9. And that really finishes up the ag chapter, by the way, until you get to conservation, so. What are y'all thinking about these bullets on 7-9? And again,
I have a question.
yeah.
In number 1, we don't currently have anything in the in-family conveyance stating that the applicant should be a Woodford County resident, do we?
We do not. That was
Okay.
one of the things that came from the counties. And again, you guys have the county list there at your seat too. No, that's something the county did when they were working on this list. That there would be
Okay.
a residency requirement.
Okay, now that concerns me just a little bit because there are some big farm owners that live outside of Woodford County that probably should be able to give a lot to a son or a daughter or a grandchild if they so chose through the in-family conveyance if it was done properly on all other areas. That's just my thoughts.
Actually, I would ask Henry, I think we asked you this before, how is residency defined legally? Are there primary and secondary residencies?
I don't think we arrived at an answer for that, and I think we'd probably have to craft our own. It's not something where there's a common sense answer, so.
Because these days there are plenty, just following is kind of a sub-bullet to Patty's thing, there are plenty of people who might live here
Right.
and also live somewhere else.
Right.
There's room here. So, I mean, I think that's, figure that out.
So the only time I guess I've seen residency language is be a planning commissioner or run for office. You know, there's language out there that you have to determine a residency to qualify for something.
I mean, I assume that's there because you want to discourage large-scale speculators from simply doing all this on a piece of paper from 3,000 miles away and never having any stake. And this is about stake.
We weren't sure how we would implement that if that was, but we figure it out. I think you would probably just someone have to just verify to the point. Does residency mean I just own it, or I'm sleeping there 16 days of the month? And you know, I don't know. To that point, we might have to create a definition of what residency means in this, so we would know what that means. But I generally would think that it's your primary residence. You might own several homes, but this is the one I call my main residence, I guess. But we would think that would just be a checkbox on the application that would have to be attested to somehow. Maybe that's how it's done. They would just sign that this is their primary residence. So are you suggesting we take it out, or?
I share Patty's concerns, I think. I guess it all comes back to that thing that we never really solved, which is why do we have this in the first place? right? Is it because we think people should have the absolute right to do what they want with their property, or do we think it was made back in the day to maintain some idyllic notion of the family farm so the kids could stay here and afford to do it? Or is it somewhere in between? And I'm not sure we have settled that.
I really feel like that this number 1 should be removed.
Can I make it a suggestion just because I know the fiscal court wants something like this in there?
Sure.
What if we just add an or after Woodford County resident and tie it into like property taxes or something? So if you own a farm, you obviously are invested in Woodford County to the extent that you pay property taxes on your farm or something like that. Like add an or that would cover those folks that we're worried about.
Who doesn't pay property taxes?
I guess, yeah.
But everybody pays.
Well, I mean, but to that point, and to Whitney's point, I guess, you could get away from proof of residency to just proof of ownership, which I guess they all do now, right?
Well, I like that. If it extends to sort of proof of use, proof of engagement,
Yeah.
proof of use and engagement in an agricultural process, that I'm okay with.
How do you, how much engagement?
Say that again?
How much engagement? What does engagement look like?
Yeah, I know.
So I guess that goes to a question I've got about the entire in-family conveyance. If we don't have anyone that's going to police the in-family conveyance as far as who holds the property for the 5 or 10 years, we're not going to police how much agricultural use or what they're actually doing with the property, whether or not the family member or whether or not the person lives in Woodford County or is a resident, or we completely strike that. If we don't have anybody policing this anyway, do we not just completely simplify this and every tract has to be 30 acres as a primary tract, and you set yourself limits like we already had of, I don't know if it's still in here now or not, but 2 for 30,
Yeah.
or let's say 2 for 35 acres, but that primary tract has to stay 30 acres regardless.
Well, that's what we had in the first draft. That's what we did in December of last year. We had a paragraph that was just like that. It was just basically, here's the number of lots you get, and the remainder's got to be a legal tract, and you got to have frontage and meet all the other standards, frontage, lot width, kind of stuff. And that's what we sent to them that they sent back.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we did add where it has to be recorded on the deed. So that will help with the policing. Whereas in the past, it hasn't necessarily been recorded on the deed that there was this restriction.
Exactly. But again, who is going to look at that? Because that was some discussion earlier in meetings about this, that we don't have anybody to even look at that. Even though it's on the deed, who's going to say this is on the deed?
I would hope the attorney at closing, because that's a huge risk to enter into something like that, knowing the consequence.
Yeah, that's their job.
Yeah. So then if we have somebody outside of us to police this, then, I mean.
Well, all plat notes and plats are, we're not policing plats, and if there's a violation of plat notes, it's a civil matter, and so if we put notes on a plat or these things are in the deed, then yeah, it would be, like Whitney's saying, it'd be an attorney or property owner to make sure these things are complied with.
Right, unless there's not an attorney involved. If it's not a financed purchase, then it might be something where it doesn't get policed. That's worth considering.
Was brought up earlier.
Right.
You can't cover everything, but I think that's a big risk for folks to defy a restriction on the deed.
Yeah.
Rich, the statutes don't add much about residency requirements. It defines a resident as someone who has resided in the geographical area for the requisite time.
So we're all residents right now until I drive home.
So what requisite time? We have no requisite time, so.
So it varies by office, and we would name that. So.
patio, striking number one.
Yeah.
I just think number one should be struck. I can think of instances where even in my family, there's farmland owned in Woodford County where the primary landowner resides in another county, but if they wanted to give a lot to one of their children to be able to live on the farm and maintain ownership of the parent parcel, I think that should be allowed.
So Steve, the fiscal court asked us to put this on here. Can we just tell them we don't want it on here?
Well, I don't know, the fiscal court,
We can
Court's giving us a thumbs
we
up.
can make a suggestion, yes.
they did a deep dive for 4 months on this, heard from the public, put this together, had a vote, and said this is what we want the planning commission to consider, but didn't sound like we had some flexibility to, take it where we need to take. This committee decided to just take what they sent us and put it in a public hearing, which is what we've done for the last 4 months. And
The
so-
record that we send to them might also clarify our reasoning for why we take things out or leave them in. We could even have a memo accompanying it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm for taking it out too.
I am
We
too.
can't take it out, take it out.
My only hesitation was, do they send it, is that the deal breaker that sends it back? But
It would complicate plats. I mean, right now, plats a submittal. It's fairly easy to figure out what to turn in. You sign, you fill it out, you pay, and then all of a sudden, if we're like, oh, it turns out you didn't meet that criteria, the plat can't go forward. We might already took payment on it. I mean, just, it would be something we'd have to figure out before they file.
Yeah.
And hopefully that when you file a plat, there's not that kind of stuff that, there's other items you have to meet before you can actually turn in your application. But so it's probably cleaner if it is out for us procedurally, but we could make it work if that's what has to happen, Second one's very similar. An ag affidavit has to be submitted as part of that. We do that now for residential properties when they ask for the ag exemption, when they build single-family homes or barns or garages. We have an ag affidavit now. It's built in the state building code. So that wouldn't be too hard to modify something. Again, as a precursor to file, you're going to have to turn in your ag affidavit, and you're verifying for us that not only is this a 35-acre parcel, but there is actually ag use occurring on the parcel at the time you apply. If it's just, I guess, overgrown land out there and there's no ag use, then you would not be eligible to move forward with an in-family conveyance. Again, it goes back to the parent concept that there's farming, there's some kind of activity, there's some kind of relationship between a family member, but farming's at the root of all these kind of justification why we would allow the properties to circumvent the ag rules. And by the way, this is the ag chapter. So, you go back to the intent statement and what we allow in the ag district, you would hope there'd be agricultural use in play, that this just isn't simply a way to create residential lots, which we have other zones that are more appropriate for that. But
Worth noting always that the case law is very broad on what constitutes agriculture. Cutting hay.
yeah,
gets the
cutting
job
hay
done, so,
works,
yeah.
lumber,
Right.
bees,
So
orchard
basically-
grasses.
any
if you're-
ag activity.
If you're 90 years old and you haven't been able to do much for years and the land's line kind of fallow, now you're going to do this. You just hire somebody to cut hay for you.
Right, yeah.
Get a beehive,
Cut a tree down or something.
couple
I mean,
pop.
I'm fine with that particular case. But,
Yeah, you'd be signing the affidavit that there's agricultural use in play based on the state definition, and the burden's on the property owner or the applicant to say that's happening. Once again, we're not gonna go out and check and make sure, you've mowed hay in the last year. It's an affidavit you sign.
So many of these things are just because we've conflated the ideal of a family farm with land use preservation. It's like
Exactly.
land use preservation, right? Every single one of these is that.
So 2 would stay in then?
Yeah.
Sure. Then 3 and 4 were combined on the counties. We no, they were separate. That's right. That's 3 and 4. Yeah. So 3 is the lots can be at least 2 acres in size. Currently, under the current rule, you can make them as small as 1 acre with no frontage. This would make the minimum 2 acres, and that's what the county had in their proposal. Our prior proposal, we left it at 1, but the 2 evolved from the county's list. And then 4 is the splits, that you either get 1 or 2 lots based on your acreage. The current rule, there's a tiered all the way up to 15 lots.
2, 7,
2, 4, 7, yeah,
15.
10 or 15, yeah.
With that 32 to 49, I like being able to do 2 conveyance lots. I mean, if you just look at, I guess, statistics, most families have 1.89 kids or whatever it is. I mean, I just think you give somebody an opportunity to do 2 in-family conveyances just to kind of go along with that. And that's my only reasoning behind that. You hate to have one child that you want to stay on the family farm, and then you can't give another child that you have the same opportunity to stay there if that's what they want to do. But then you're, what, 58?
That 0.89 child.
That 0.89 child. I think it's 1.97, but anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the real problem was the 15, not the 2 or even maybe the 3 or whatever. But
Yeah, the 2 or the 4.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
once you get into the 7 and the 15, you are, yeah,
Yeah, you're creating basically a subdivision.
yeah.
So Chris, are you saying that you think it should be 2 lots for parcels that are 32 to 100 acres? Because currently, according to this, the 50 acres can have 2 in-family conveyances.
I think we do 2 with the 32 to 49, and then we set another standard for anything above 49, whether it be 3, 4, 5. I still think we keep it smaller than the 7 or the 15, obviously. But, I mean, if you're getting into a larger parcel there, I don't have an issue with going to 3 or 4. And maybe just double that and go to 4 in-family conveyances on that, rather than just 2 on a 50 and above.
Well, but we're right back to the other provisions. It can only be parents to kids. So right back is, I guess there's folks that have 4 kids, I guess, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there is.
I assume they have bigger farms, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I struggle with the whole concept also that, we have an ag district whose primary use is agriculture, and it's a 30-acre district. And that may be extreme. Most counties don't have a 30-acre district. They have 5s or 10s or 1s, or a few have 20s, but typically most don't have 30. And this is an exception to the rule. And, we're, in a sense, creating residential lots in the ag zone. And, I think the list we showed you guys back whenever, there's 75% of the property owners can't do this. They're below 15 acres now, so they have no options.
Yeah.
So the bigger farms can cut off basically residential lots, and, people that want to make small cuts or sell a lot to a neighbor or 2 acres, they can't do anything because of the 30-acre rule. And then the sheer numbers, if you remember, with the current tiered list, I mean, we were looking at, we're not going to build them all, but there could be like 8,000 some lots could be created.
With the way the numbers used to be.
Would be, yeah.
I'm happy with this the way it is.
I do know that we get a lot of phone calls, or I have, from people wanting to buy a farm that is 30 acres and it has a house on it already. And their question is, can I put a mother-in-law's house on it?
Well, we've added that, and then accessory dwelling, we've opened up that option.
So,
But this is creating separate lots,
It is, and I'm sure it's all about financing.
Thanks, Henry.
Because they would probably want that property on a different track.
Yeah.
But
Well, they can't. They can't. That's what we decided a long time
we
ago.
get that all the time.
That's fine. Tell them they can't. They can go to Scott County where they've got nothing but 5-acre parcels of houses on them as far as you can see. And none of them rag.
I'm not sure if we change what the fiscal court sent back to us on this, that we're doing anything to conserve our ag land. I think we might be opening ourselves up to a whole lot of lots showing up.
Yeah.
You know, and our chair brings up a really interesting point. You know, this whole provision is kind of based, this is the ag zone, it's scattered all over the county, and everyone should have this right. But, you know, really, I mean, it'd take a whole rewrite, but really there's some land that maybe it doesn't matter. It's not prime farmland. But the categories, if it's zoned A1, it's eligible. Or conservation right now, or A2, or A4. But, you know, if our methodology here was more based on prime farmland designations, the land that's the most valuable probably shouldn't have any cuts on it. But if it's wooded land or conservation style, I mean, there's some land that really, what would you care if it was 3 5s or 3 1s? It's not prime farmland.
Until we get to the transportation chapter.
Till we get to the transportation chapter, which is the challenge. But that's the issue here is there's some of this, maybe it's not a big deal, but like Chair's mentioned, every lot we cut off that is technically prime farmland, that land's gone. Mm-hmm. Cutting the 30s smaller, you know.
I'm happy leaving this one the way it is.
I would like to see it stay the way it is.
With the 1 and the 2 on number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's generational. You know, you can do it in the next generation if you want to keep going.
What were your thoughts on that, Rich? I'm sorry. Or it's generational.
Well, I know you admittedly argued. The only argument I heard for this is what if you have 4 kids. That's the only one I heard. The other one is that maybe it doesn't give a chance to give stuff away, but if we have that, if that's our reproductive rate, then this does ensure what the thing was supposed to ensure. You can give parcels to your kids by and large. That's what it's for. Plus, there's nothing that says if you have 100 acres. So what? I'm just going to make this up. What happens if you have 100 acres? You could make 2 50-acre parcels out of that.
3 30s.
You can do 3 30s.
3 30s.
Do the same thing. There's nothing to stop people from doing that kind of subdivision now. If that's what they want to do.
So hypothetically, if you've got 100 acres, that allows you 4 max. If we go with the theory of what I'm talking about, so then you separate that down into 3 33 and thirds. Then you go back
That gives you 6.
That gives you 1. Because you still have to keep that parent track. So you have actually eliminated 1 lot by what your thoughts are. Because you have to leave that parent track 30 acres. You have to have a 2-acre lot with what we're looking at here. So that leaves you 1 1/3 acres left. So it would give you 31 1/3. So you're actually losing looking at it like that. And I know we're getting way
You can still get 4. You can still get 4 out of that. You don't have to divide it into 32 1/3, 30. You can divide it into 32, 32, and what's left after that? 36.
36.
Right? And so
you could do 2.
So you could do 1, 2 lots.
So you
and
could
2 lots,
still
you'll
do
have
4.
lots.
You could still do 4. Yeah.
Well, and
So there's no need to put that 4 in there because you can still do that.
and it's also
So
interesting,
determined to do that.
we don't have a ton of 100-acre lots left, you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that. So if you go above that, then it's not an issue.
And the majority of the families that you all see, you guys know, come off 30. 30s get broke up, 40s get broke up. It's the smaller tracts that have already been divided, then still have rights to do the in-family. You know, a 30 will go 2 1s and a 28. It's not too often we see 100-acre farms create these, or 200-acre farms. Those get broke into 30s, and then we see the in-families after that, typically. There are a few. And if you guys remember, we don't have a ton of 100-acre farms
So basically,
left.
we don't need to change this language because what this language does is ensure that people with smaller farms can give something to their kids. Anybody who's got a bigger farm already has that capacity to do it. Beyond 100 acres, you're beyond the 4 that you could start to go up because you can subdivide.
I still just, I don't agree with the one in family with the 32 to 49. And I know I'll probably be outvoted on that, but that is one I just don't agree with. I'm sorry.
I would be curious to see how the rest of the committee feels.
Yeah.
Tim?
I'm sort of leaning to what Chris is talking about, actually. I think you should have the ability to leave all your kids in it. Instead of, you got 3 kids or whatever, I think you gotta have a go get live with 3 kids. I'm leaning that way.
Kind of on the fence, but I think the intent of I guess, philosophically, I guess I agree with what we're saying with 2 and 4. But the intent of this was to preserve farmland, which making a good argument that if the fiscal court wants us to, and I think the community wants us to preserve farmland, then we probably should leave it this way as it was written, with the 1 and the 2. So I'm on the fence. I don't know. If we made it 2 and 4, if you had 100 acre, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, you have a lot more options there, but then there's not that many of those plus 100 acre farms.
There's fewer.
Yeah. But I'm inclined to leave it with 1 and 2 as the edit is, because I don't know, it seems like we're in a sort of a, I don't want to call it a crisis, but probably is for developing farmland. So, and this seems to address it, but I don't know.
Could this be something that we wait and let the commission decide on this particular bullet point?
Come up with like 2 options and then vote on that with the commission, I guess.
Assume are we still up in the air on the entire in-family conveyance? Don't we have to present this entire section to the committee regardless to be accepted with how we're going to move forward with it, not just each bullet point?
Yeah, the whole thing would go to a public hearing at the planning commission.
Okay.
For citizens to testify on, or you all to debate with the full commission. I think the win in whatever y'all end up with in number 4, it's less than it was before. But by the way, not many folks came in and did 15 or 10. Y'all know that. You guys have seen a 4 and a 5. It's usually 1, but over time you'll see them get to 5 or 7 because there's 1 today and then a few years. But typically you guys have seen 1 where someone came and did 4 at one time and 1 that did 5 at one time.
I'm kind of interested in the data part. So you ran an analysis that if everything was cut up with the old, if you maxed it out, it would be like
8,100 or 8,400 parcels potentially could be created.
Have you done that with the 1 and the 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there were 647 parcels eligible, so if you did two, you know, we did the split in 50. I think it dropped it down to like 800, 900, from like 8,000 to like 900.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's pretty,
Worst case scenario.
yeah.
No, we did that, but it was based on the GIS data we looked at that time would have been Christmas 24 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't looked at it since then. But yeah, we're able to split those out because we know how many parcels are out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And it'd be real easy. Everyone
pretty-
between
Yeah,
32 and 49 gets one, and everyone gets. We can do the math on that.
right, yeah,
But
yeah.
that doesn't mean that would happen. But that'd be the worst case scenario. But the old way it was like 8,400,
Yeah.
something like that, over 8,000 parcels.
Like you say, you don't you don't rate farmland, so, you know, like you said, I mean, there could be parcels that or farms that nobody cares if there's 5 lots on there,
Yeah.
30 acres, but yeah.
And there may be good water in that area and a good road.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other side of this, is we're not really looking at infrastructure criteria as we make these. They're either eligible or they're not based on the rules. And there could be some right now, we're talking about fire hydrants, that's new, but you know, there could be the person that does 4 that's on a narrow road with no water. You know, again, so our criteria is not infrastructure based or ag prime farmland based. It's based on just a relationship and a cap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget that even the stuff that we consider to be not great farmland is being compared against the best farmland in the world.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
there are plenty of people in the world who would kill for any piece of land in Woodford County and would be able to make a lot of money on it.
mm-hmm.
It's just we're spoiled because
Yeah.
stuff is more known.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
I think, you know, that's what it's strong. Actually, are in some ways.
You know, in big picture, looks like Whitney changed on us there a little bit, but still Whitney. No, that's great. I need one of those, Whitney. That's great. You know, we're looking at the text amendment, and, you know, if you fall back to the comprehensive plan as our benchmark on, you know, we look at when we make zone changes, but as we make this text amendment, you know, there's pretty good guidance in there about we have an urban service boundary concept. It mentions discourage small lot residential development. I mean, really this whole policy kind of runs afoul of our directives in the comprehensive plan for the agricultural area in concept. You know, the whole idea is we shouldn't be creating small lots outside the urban service boundary, and we do, and we have, and it's an exception policy that's carried over 35 years. But if you were to look at the comprehensive plan, you'd make an argument we definitely should scale it back. If not, we probably shouldn't have a policy of this nature.
We could have the same conversation when we talk about the size of the Millville small area district.
Yeah, exactly that too. And those are opportunities for people to create small lots right now, you know, as opposed to just anywhere in the county.
Mm-hmm.
We do have an area that right now is supposed to be for that.
Yeah. Was that like Millville and Nunsuch and Troy?
Mortonsville.
Yeah.
So we have 3 areas. But you would have to go through the process of a zone change as opposed to this being a right in the ag zone.
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like, the whole, if the conditional use, if they're required to go before the Board of Adjustments, like what does that process look like, and what is the Board of Adjustments considering? These bullet points before it gets to us?
No, so that's good point. So the Board of Adjustments is charged under our zoning ordinance to kind of look at infrastructure related stuff. So they make their decision on, for example, traffic, noise, water. It's a public hearing, so every kind of conditional use permit's different, so they all kind of stand on their own. If it's a short-term rental kind of CUP, you know, they're obviously looking at traffic, how many cars, is a driveway sufficient? You know, if it was a church CUP, again, they'd be looking at parking, scale, road conditions, narrowness of a road, for example, water. So they're all a little different, but they typically are looking at life safety type things, you know, roads, traffic, capacities, water. And then neighbors come and raise all kinds of issues. So the fact that it would be a public hearing, if someone came here to propose an in-family and they had to go to the Board of Adjustments, the neighbors would be notified, which is different than a plat. They could come testify. there may be a particular issue they raise about an in-family that maybe is not appropriate in a certain part of the county. But typically it'd probably come down to road and water would be my guess. Because the in-families end up meaning there's going to be a home built. And maybe there's a part of the county where that someone might think that's just not the appropriate place to build a house.
So essentially, along with changing the language here, this becomes a much more public process.
With the conditional use add-on at the front
Yeah.
end, yeah, it becomes a.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's an extra layer that I really think is also working in our favor as far as our goal in decreasing the amount of requests.
Yeah.
I don't know how helpful that is, but I do think we should take two options to you all, I'm not on the committee, you all should take two options to us next Thursday, because the last thing I want is for us to be like we were the last two times where it's like, well, we need more time. And I think if we don't give them two options, they're going to be sitting there like you all are tonight trying to figure out which way to go.
So you guys were, so Whitney, what you're saying is number 4 would be like a 4A, 4B kind of.
Yes, yeah, like provide, like these are the two suggestions, and let's vote and decide what it's going to be, because the committee's giving you two options based on, since everyone doesn't agree.
Stay with the 1, 2, or the 2, 4 is what you.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, it's two options to vote on. Yeah, I'm good with that.
I was packing up because I wasn't going to be part of that conversation, but you just decided while I was packing up.
Yeah. Probably the other big one's number 6.
Yeah.
Is the
That's
10-year.
10-year.
hold on the parent track and the conveyed track. And I think you all had some debate at the last planning commission, especially on the parent track. Maybe the 10-year was too long, could be shorter. I do know when the fiscal court debated this, they right now it's 5 years on the conveyed track, 0 on the parent track. I think the court looked at 5, 20 was talked about, 10 was talked. I think they talked about several numbers and just landed on 10. I think the main thing was to put some kind of hold on the parent track that currently doesn't exist.
I think 5 and 10 is a good compromise for the fiscal court. Like, it was 0, we're taking it to 5. It was 5, we're taking it to 10.
Yeah.
As long as we can come up with some kind of hardship language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plat
yeah.
application, due judicial action, or substantial hardship is what I had in my notes.
That's good.
What was the fiscal court's rationale on the 5 on the parent?
It was 10 on the parent, but yeah.
Well,
No, it was a long time. I don't know.
This is,
because it's conforming, it's a 30 acres.
yeah, so this
Yeah.
is my thought. What if they have 55 acres and they sell off 2, or let's say they have 49 acres. They sell off, or they convey 2, then they sell the parent tract of 47, then you can go right back with another family and allow another family
Yeah, well, that's
conveyance.
Plus, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So it starts over
Yeah,
when you,
yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Plus, if the idea was this is a way to keep it in farmland,
Yeah.
you're not doing
Not doing that regardless.
You're just getting out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But a single family can only convey once, and then, but yeah, if they sell it to a different.
Yeah, if there's no
Yeah.
hold on that, they can immediately sell
Yeah,
it for
yeah.
whatever reason and.
To your brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the word resided?
And then you rent for $1 from your brother.
You had
Yeah.
questions about that last time as well. Do they have to build on it? I mean,
Oh.
forcing them to build on it,
Yeah.
live on it?
I'm not sure 6 can be adhered to. I mean, it says, 6 says both the primary and conveyed tract must be held and reside for 10
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Well,
Reside.
when we just cut off a brand new 2-acre tract, until they build the house, there's no way it can be resided on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a vacant tract, there's no residence until there's a house built. So it says right now that it must be held and resided on for 10 years. may need to say after, or resided on after the construction.
I feel like if Henny was here, he would say.
I think held. I don't think we get that far into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Henny, and
Right.
you're a lawyer, I feel like Henny was here, he'd just say, how do you make somebody live how do you make somebody live there?
Yeah.
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 I have a friend who just, for example, they have a farm that's been conveyed by her husband's family, but they aren't building a house there right now. It's just land they have. They're not ready to build a house yet. So I think we just stick with held.
That has to be held, not resided
Yeah.
on?
I agree.
Just
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like the lockers.
And then, yeah, if we can add some hardship language, I think that would keep the 5 or 10, I guess, 5 for the parent and then 10 for the conveyed, and then add some hardship language.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
5 for the primary and 10 for the conveyed.
And then finish that sentence with judicial action or substantial hardship.
So then you need to change number 8 to include 5 and 10 upon recordation of the deed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. 10 or 5.
The 5 10-year requirements commence.
And then 7 scaled back.
So, when Central Kentucky started doing this several years ago, it was kind of novel in the country, but not topics. And it suddenly occurred to me, I should have done it, I feel stupid, I didn't do any benchmarking other places. And it didn't occur to me until I was just messing around this afternoon and I typed some stuff in. Google gives you AI stuff immediately, and so I got back a whole bunch of information. Now they could be basing it on Woodford only. But, I moved here from Vermont, they were doing that 30 years ago. So I'm thinking, where's ours? We must have a model out there for somebody else who's got a hardship clause on this kind of thing. Do you know
Yeah,
any?
I'm not, and I'm not aware of a whole lot of counties that do exception language.
Yeah.
And then again, most of the Kentucky counties, ag zones are 5-acre zones or 1-acre zones or 10-acre
I'm just thinking
zones.
nationally.
Yeah. They have larger, I'm not aware, but
I think
it's
the
something we could
American
look at.
Farmland Trust or somebody would have that. I will look into it. It just didn't even occur to me until about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, I would think we need to define it.
Yeah, how do you write that?
Yeah.
And again, number 7 is just scales back the who and the from and to, right now it can be husband, wife, brothers, and so this takes it just from parent to child and to grandchild. Which I think you guys are okay with 7, like that.
I would be, yes.
Yeah. I am. What was it before? It was
It was
pretty
broad,
open.
pretty broad.
Yeah.
The typical one we see is spouse to spouse,
Yeah.
which pretty much you can indicate what's getting ready to happen. I mean, one spouse conveys to another spouse, they're probably selling one half of that farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of times we have, corporations, and the first thing they do is take it out of the corporation and put it into one of the spouse, or both spouses are on the deed, which would negate it in family. So the first thing they do is modify the deed to put it in one name so they can convey to the other spouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got 2 of those on the next planning commission agenda, in fact. I don't know if the deeds were changed, but I know they're spouse to spouse.
Yeah.
So, unless they're both deciding to live in separate houses on the farm, it's probably one part of that farm's getting sold.
Mm-hmm.
Snoring really loud.
Or they
Yeah,
snore.
right. Yeah.
So by going to just the kids and stuff, it keeps that family relationship, I think was part of the original intent, that the
Yeah.
kids can build back on the farm and hopefully someone's still farming. So that's where y'all are on D then? You guys good with all that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Additional use permit stays in as a,
Yeah, I think that's
What
been
we want language on
on
hardship.
hardship
hardship.
language, and then the option, the
so you're saying we need to
floor.
define what that hardship language is, or just say substantial hardship and just leave it at that, or do we need
I
to?
think we leave it at that, and whoever the commissioners are can use common sense and just judge it case by case. If you want to add to be determined by the, planning commission or something, but I think we just say substantial hardship.
What's interesting about that, Whitney, that's on the hold. So like, once you all have subdivided a piece of property and it's platted and goes down to the clerk's office and it's put on the deed, that situation would be somebody saying, hey, I need to be able to sell this on year 4 instead of year 5. We wouldn't be party to any of that because it's a note on the deed. I guess that would be the two parties determining, does it qualify? But I don't think the planning commission would be involved in that decision to determine what a substantial hardship is, or even judicial action. It's just, it happens, 2 attorneys would probably figure that out on a proposed sale, is what I'm guessing. Because we wouldn't see it at that point. You guys wouldn't see it for sure.
I think as long as we have the language in there, I think that's fine.
And then they can, if they think it qualifies, then they can transfer the property, basically. They're not replatting at that point, they're transferring a deed before the time frame.
Well, I think to Whitney's and Patty's point, and I take yours, even if that happens, if we're paying attention
Yeah,
that these things are happening, we're going to be paying attention.
we'd see it, yeah.
So Patty, you're happy with just the hardship? General, that statement. Oh, my microphone's low.
Well,
I think y'all have done great. I didn't expect to get through all this.
we've got through one district of 20.
The only thing that I would ask to add to this, and I know it's the only thing I would add to ask to add to this, and I know it's not been a popular discussion, is that even after this is adopted, that we still give a small window of time for people to come in and go ahead and do an in-family conveyance if they want to on a previous parcel that they've bought that they've been allowed to do that with. And I know that we've had an influx of those coming in that we have seen, and even if it's 30 or 60 days would be the only thing that I would ask just to take into consideration.
There'd have to be an effective date put in, of course, if the planning commission adopts this, you are making a recommendation to the court.
Yeah.
And if the court adopts it, they could make an effective date of January 1, 28 or something, if that's what they chose to do.
Yeah.
That's a way to create a window to allow people to still come in under the old rules.
Yeah.
But,
And I do agree with what some of the other commissioners have said, is that this has obviously been a very hot topic for some time now. And I think just a short window to allow everyone to tie up any loose ends that they've been maybe trying to get or in the process of doing and have kind of been caught and for whatever reason not had an opportunity to do it. I just think I would like to just do an effective date, like you said, maybe a little further out after this is adopted. Now, if we still are a year down the road, then, or if we wait and do this in 2026, then no, maybe we don't give an effective date. I mean, it's still 6 more months. But if it's something that's adopted here, in the next couple of meetings, I would like to see that happen.
Well, once it goes to the fiscal court, if they take the length of time they did last time, people are going to have plenty of time to get in there under the gun if they want to.
And that's exactly, and that was, the point there as well that I was making is if it's a lengthy time, then I think they've had ample time.
well, I want to point out the date that's in that.
I have to hop off for a 6:30. Thank you all for letting me join. I have to hop off for a 6:30
Okay. Yep.
that I'm late for.
Just want to point out in the lead-in paragraph, by us putting a new date in there of January 1, 25, that's one we carried forward because it ties in with our GIS data, it'd be easier, you know, right now we're using a 35-year-old date, and it's hard to figure out what people can do. There's going to be some people that are going to have a benefit there. That they were maxed out, but this might open them up to now do one more, let's say. Because we need to put a new date in there. Now, it could be January 1, 2020, but using the 1990 data where we have no data set to tell people whether you're eligible for 2 or 7 or 9, it's a ridiculous process of us trying to see if they're eligible. And we get those calls all the time. So the key is to put a date in there. We put January 1, 25 back when we sent this in Christmas because we thought that would work. So just making sure you know there are going to be some people who get a benefit the other way. It's going to help some out that maxed out and already did their 7. Now they got 2 more, 4 more.
Unless they said you can't do that.
Yeah.
Unless you can't double dip. The fiscal court could add that to the language.
They could.
If the farm has already done that before, if the farm has already taken advantage of this, they can't do it again.
Yeah, to look at every farm that's been touched once would probably eliminate quite a few. We're just measuring it off a date and a number. Yeah, the court could add an effective date. We did that with the subregs, if you remember. When we adopted those, we put effective date out into the future so people had time to continue to develop under the old rules. But you got to put a date somewhere. You know, when the rule changes, it changes.
I'm just so struck by at least one person who came to this hearing and said they bought land here quite recently with the expectation at first that they were going to subdivide it. I'm thinking, you didn't do any homework. You know, do your homework if you're going to buy that property, but maybe there aren't that many of them. Yeah.
I don't know.
So we want to wrap up, but I mean, I know you guys, the plan is to get this to the Planning Commission, but really the whole article needs to be sort of walked through. Unless you guys are just wanting to pull out the A1 section. But I think the idea is...
Thank you, Rich, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
But I think the idea, Chris, is we really need to walk through the whole chapter. It's probably unlikely this will be ready for the Planning Commission because the city side stuff's got some stuff in it. As you know, me and you served on the housing group.
Yes.
And there's quite a bit in here as a directive from the city that I think we've looked at. I know you haven't seen because you guys are new to this, but there's some stuff in here that's a pretty big change for the city side amendment related to the residential zones, density thresholds.
Oh, yeah.
So do we try to meet then next
week?
Thursday prior to try to make our way through this? I think we've got a good hold on what we would like to present.
The committee,
at least to the commission.
A year ago, the committee got all the way through page 7-47. And then that's when you start the commercial zones. Some of it was looked at by different groups, but we never formally went through the entire chapter. We stopped after 747 and then decided to just send the fiscal court
the A1
through pages 30, through pages 733. So we sent the court 7-1 through 733, and then the city side stuff starts at 734. And there's a lot there. I mean, we worked on the housing group for how long? Probably 7-8 months?
At least.
And then they made a formal recommendation to the city council to ratify these. The council passed a resolution to direct us to amend the ordinance to include these changes. And then there were prior resolutions that related to the industrial zone, commercial zone, and the downtown zone that the city made directives on. So again, that's a challenge with this. It's all in one chapter, you know. So do we take it to the Planning Commission piecemeal, and the city has to wait till we work through the county side, or do we send it parallel tracks? Or do we just send the whole article to the Planning Commission and then send it to the governments and they either pass what they pass or they don't?
Is that, I mean, you're 80-some pages here, what, 89 pages?
89, yeah.
Or
some of it's strike through though at the end, so it's not that bad.
Is that something that we can get through in one single meeting?
No, I
with
doubt
the
it.
commission? So in that case, do we?
I think we can get through the commission if, I mean, there's so many of you all in this advisory committee, if we dig down and can get wordsmithing like we just did, when we get to the planning commission, there's a few other members that have to sort of get brought up to speed, but there's 5 of you all that typically, participate in this, and if we could get through this chapter and then take it to the planning commission, at that point, it's really then for the public to come in too. We just had a pretty controversial zone change on the south side of town that generated a lot of debate. Chris, when we did a lot of this at the committee level, a lot of these ideas are about changing lot sizes and bumping up density in the urban service boundary.
Yeah.
Back then, those concepts looked pretty straightforward, but on the heels of what we just experienced, there may be some citizens that disagree with some of that philosophy.
Yeah.
Patty, is there anything you can think about that? You were part of the original review when we got into those residential standards. We really, as a group, we really never agreed to anything. We just reviewed through their proposal and stopped, if I remember right.
Yeah, to my recollection, all we did was just review the material that had been submitted. There might have been some minor discussion, but nothing that I recall that was anything definite at all.
Yeah, we didn't have a consensus vote of any kind that, like, we're ready to move this to the planning commission. So there's some stuff in here that could generate some debate. The commercial stuff's pretty straightforward, just getting modern terms in the book for uses. But it's those residential zones. There's some pretty different stuff in here. So I guess we just plow into that the next meeting, start with we can go pretty fast through the county side zones, because again, you guys have already looked at that and there was hardly any debate about the CO zones, the A4 zone, the rural residential. Those changes you guys were all pretty on board with.
Yeah, I think the residential districts are the ones that are going to take some time. The business districts and industrial, that we'll fly through that, I think.
Yeah, they'll go pretty quick.
Yeah.
One of the directives we got from the city way back was about drug and alcohol rehab. Our term in the book is rehabilitation home, but there's not a zone it's permitted in. The industry term probably should be group living. That's in the definition, as opposed to saying drug and alcohol rehab. There's a residential care facility in state law that has to be addressed. But back then, the directive from the city and from the mayor was, we need to find a place for all uses to land. Not saying we want rehabilitation homes or group living in every zone, but there should be a place they're appropriate in our book, or they should at least be conditional. And right now, the word rehabilitation homes in Article 2, but you can't find it in Article 7.
Oh, all right.
So, those are the type of housekeeping things that are in here.
Yeah.
And that was a directive we got from them way back in early 23 to address that. So they'll go quick, but there may be a topic or two we just get stuck on and we have to sort of work through. So I'm fine with next week if you guys think before the planning commission, since you already be here.
Yeah, I can.
Does that work for everybody, or are you good with that?
Vice Chair.
You guys
I gotta
want to
check
start at
my
5
schedule.
again, because that'd give you
Give us an hour and a half.
yeah. Or
Everybody good with 5?
if you want to start at 4:30 to give us a real hour and a half, so you could take a little break before the meeting.
Yeah.
I can do that, I think.
The challenge we have at the planning commission day,
5 or 4:30.
I think I can do 4:30. Yeah.
the challenge is we come in here and
Could I zoom in and then come in?
people start to come into the meeting. We start at 6:30.
Yeah.
So when we have these committee meetings for a planning commission, they work pretty well if we can get a gap. But all of a sudden, people
You
are
start
starting to
getting
come in.
people filtering in.
And
So.
probably from about 6:15 to 6:30, it's about hard for us to have a meeting in here of the committee.
Yeah.
As people are starting to mill in applicants and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty loaded agenda in your packet, by the way.
So if we get hung up on the residential part, can we not go ahead and do send the agricultural part, or you have to do the whole
We don't
chapter
have to.
as one?
We can break it apart, but again, I think the issue is the city's been asking me, when are we gonna get on their stuff?
Yeah, no, I get that.
And
I
we could
mean,
just send the A1 like we did before to the county, but
yeah.
like our chair mentioned, We had some good changes proposed for the A4 and the RR zone. No one debated a lot, and, but we sent it all to the county, and this is what they got hung up on a little bit.
Yeah.
So we could do that again.
Well, let's just meet, I say we meet next week and
And
try to get through it.
so everything's on the agenda right now for the plan. We have a line item on the agenda for Articles 2 and 7.
Yeah.
So at some point, if you all thought you got done or were close enough, we can, but if you make a lot of changes next Thursday, it's going to be hard for us to roll them in at 6:30 without
Gotcha.
a little gap in there where I could make some edits real quick.
Yeah, okay.
So it's probably likely that this may not hit the planning commission until October, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think you guys are going to be making some changes as we get into some of this residential stuff.
Okay.
So you might start studying on it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a new single-family zone proposed. It would be a 3,500 square foot lot, 50 foot wide, called R1D. That was in the proposal. So some of this stuff is pretty new for our community.
So then I assume we will plan to meet 4:30 next Thursday. The 11th.
Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. I second.
Everybody in agreement? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nay.
Watch that football game after all.
Oh, yeah, that's right.